Good afternoon, beautiful people of planet Earth and all other interdimensional entities of love, light, joy, peace, success, prosperity, happiness, truth, honour, integrity. I attached an apology to my earlier video because unwittingly, without intending to, I realised that because I don't know people's names, I reference them by their, what I perceive are their countries or, geographies of origin, and it did sound racist. No one's pulled me up on it, mind you. I pulled myself up on it when I realised, just hit me out of the blue. Oh, that's a bit crass, Mama T. Especially as I have many friends from South America and, I speak a few words of Spanish, not enough to hold a conversation though. And, I admire South American culture very much. And, I'm not happy how that came out sounding. So I made an apology. It's not a very good apology because I stuck to, the fact that she was of a certain geography that I had referenced, and she was indeed a cow to me. So I'm only apologising about what could be perceived as a racial slur rather than the fact that she was, of that nationality and a cow. And I'm well aware that I'm hashing over old ground too from over a year ago, and I'm well aware of what it all cost me, all those little games that were being played, by the way, and I'm well aware of the source of those games, because no coincidences and no accidents in the universe. Anyway, the original source of those vicious little games ended up outing himself at Koala Tavern anyway, so that's how that all ended. And we all know, because Mama T's been outspoken about that. So we all know where that lies and who that lies with and who all that ugliness belonged to. And anyway, my darlings, you failed in your quest to stop, the Mama T, the Tanya, from dancing and living her best life, because I have a human right to, just as much as anyone else. And as I said in the earlier video, there were a lot of jealous women surrounding me at various points of time, and I actually didn't understand what a lot of that was even about, since I actually had a reasonably clear conscience. I mean, I did fall in love. People fall in love. It happens, I admit that I did fall in love, but, I didn't act on the falling in love. So I can hold my head high with integrity, and all those people that were envious and spiteful and hostile and jealous and threatened, as I said earlier, have egg on their face, because they were envious and spiteful and jealous and threatened over nothing. That's the twist, the cosmic joke, the twist. It's kind of delightful. Anyway, I'm going to continue on reading Satan's Choice. I had to step away because I got triggered about memories from birthing my daughters to, the man I was married to, and we could throw in racial slurs with that too, but had nothing to do with his being Jewish. It was the fact that he was just a pig, And and as fate would have it, funnily enough, I don't know how these algorithms work, but it's kind of interesting. I go on to check my Instagram because I posted a lovely photo of little Bo living his most dangerous life, because he climbed into Kermie's cage with him and was sitting there like a king, roosting on the roost, trying to trying to show that he's simpatico with the big birdies now. Well, that lasted for about 15 minutes, and then Kermie's eyes started spinning and he went to attack him, which I knew would happen, which is why I was monitoring it. But it was the cutest thing, little cockatiel sitting up like this going, "Look at me, Mama. I'm flying with the big wild boy birdies now. I's a big birdie boy now." "No, you're not. You're just carrying, waiting to be fed on." Little boy, he's got no idea. No idea. And I hadn't seen Kermie's eyes spin before. Charlie's eyes used to spin when she was angry and, wanting to attack someone or something. And but I didn't know that Indian ringnecks do that too. So that was actually quite frightening when I saw his eyes go completely change colour. My psychiatrist informs me that when I'm about to completely lose my SHIT, why am I editing for algorithms and bots? Because they're not even real people and they don't speak the English mother language, the mother tongue, the mama loshan. They have no... Why are we playing to sentiments of bots? So when I'm about to completely lose my shit, apparently my eyes change colour too. And my face goes all rigid. And it's just my eyes. And he said, and the looks, the power coming out from your core through your eyes, he said, is utterly terrifying. Which I accept. I haven't seen it because I'm on the side of the screen, understand the side of the reality, but I know he's quite right. I've had to rein it in myself a few times because it is quite confronting, holding back that level of manifested rage and knowing that if you really unleashed it, how dangerous it could actually be. But it's a side effect of surviving decades and decades and decades of abuse and trauma and refusing to lay down and take things like a licked cur. And, as I said, if anything happens to me from now and into the future, which I hope not, because I hope to live a peaceful, happy, loving life with a wonderful man one day, maybe, if the gods allow. But if anything should happen, it will be me going down fighting on my feet, because I refuse to be victimised by people anymore. I've had a lifetime of vicious attacks after vicious attacks since I was 6 years old, and I didn't deserve it then, and I don't deserve it now. And I'm not going to stand by and let people utterly brutalise me and think it's some kind of, side hustle or blood sport or hobby. If you're into bullying people who are already severely traumatised, what does that actually say about you anyway as an individual? And I suggest you find another hobby, because one day you'll pick on the wrong person and they'll fight to their own death if they have to. And that includes myself, because there comes a time in every human being's life when it's just enough. It's just enough. So, yes, but anyway, the algorithms. I went to check the photo of Kermie and Bo, because they were so cute. Little Bo, look, facing death like a real champion. Oblivious, because he's a little bird. Not completely oblivious, though. He, as I wrote, he's pushing it. He kind of knew he's getting some cheap thrill there, didn't you, little Bo? Can't see where he is. Where are you, Bobo? It's unusual. Must be drinking. Bye. Let me just check on you 1 moment. Are you sleeping over there? Is the mama too noisy? Okay, it's not sleepy by times yet. It's not sunset yet. Anyway, so so I went to check, and I don't know why. Went and took that photo, and wow, you could knock me down with a feather. Didn't I mention in the earlier video my halitosis, foul, violent, perverted, disrespectful, disgusting former brother-in-law? And who pops up as a name that I should follow? It was a strange name. Had a look at it. I thought I'll just see, who that person, if I know them or not. Well, I knew them all right. It was his son, my former nephew, my husband's nephew. Former husband's nephew. Let's get that right. The relationship's right. So I thought, what's the odds of that popping up now, today, after I've spoken out about his father? 1,000,000 to 1? 1,000,000,000 to 1? Haven't heard from that nephew in a few years, actually. And, because they're very rich and privileged and condescending. So that was basically the end of that friendship I was trying to sustain with that nephew, which was very kind of loving of me, given how I feel about his father and his mother and his uncle. Am I right? But I was trying to be inclusive and fair, and I'd been very close to that little boy when he was a child at one time, decades ago. So there was kind of a bit of a bond there. But anyway, his wife got threatened by me and didn't like me for whatever reason, or it just all turned to shit. That was another, relationship that went by the boards during the COVID years, and I'm not upset about that, not really. I was at the time, but not really. Oh yeah, that's right. Beauregard bit the little boy, but the little boy had shoved his hand in Beauregard's face, so there was fault on both sides. And the little boy went completely hysterical, as kids do, I get it. And he got a bit of a fright, but I actually said, look, come on, I'm sorry, but you shouldn't put your hand in the dog's. And they have a dog themselves, by the way, so they know about how you behave towards dogs. So anyway, it was all over that. That was their excuse for, getting rid of me. But actually it was more than that. I wasn't rich enough. They were constantly showing off about how they've got the latest house they're building and the latest car. And I can't be bothered with superficial people. I just can't. I'm not jealous of anyone. I wish them well. Blessed be. May you go from strength to strength. It's not an envy thing. It's just when I hang out with people, I want to hear about spiritual, interesting topics. I want to hear about things that affect, the entire world, not just who has the latest Lexus and the best house. It's boring to me, actually. So that was kind of, we had nothing really in common, which is a shame. So I've had many friends who are very, very extremely wealthy, but managed to include me in their life, even though comparatively I'm very, very, very poor, who were inclusive and loving and never once would throw in my face constantly about their level of success or wealth. It's something very vulgar and common about that, to do that. Because they're oblivious to it, because they've made a lifestyle out of being, narcissistic and spoilt and a bit privileged and entitled. And as I said, I just find that all boring. So, my former nephew, if he watches my videos, I stand by what I say. And I still hate your father to this day for what he did to me and my baby. And traumatising my not unborn, but newborn infant child was ugly. And that your mother stood by all that too was ugly. And that your uncle, my then husband, stood by it was even uglier, because I had to have sex with him once a week on average. Can you imagine what it's like having sex with someone that you hate and you know they hate you, but you're keeping your family and your home and your life together? Do you know what it feels like? Unpaid prostitution. It's degrading, it's soul destroying, and it's ugly. In the end, by the end of the marriage, I couldn't even stomach having sex with it, because it just wasn't, it became, in my mind, dehumanised. Wasn't a man, wasn't worth having anything to do with, and it was so treacherous and vicious all the time, to my face and behind my back. It wasn't sustainable. So anyway, and bear in mind, this is 40 years ago, pretty much now. When did my marriage end? 30 years ago. So, it's all good. It's all in the past. I'm going to eat some yogurt. And there's reasons why I want nothing to do with certain people, and it's not necessarily that they've done anything to me all that badly personally, but it's who they're connected to. I want nothing to do with their connections. And just, you have to do what you have to do. Keep yourself safe and comfortable in life. So, right. We'll continue on with the story of Growing Pains, Chapter 3, Growing Pains, Satan's Choice. Just got to find where... that's right. The choice rode into Wasaga Beach that weekend, 100 bikers strong, like modern-day Cossack warriors. Cabins had already been rented by a girlfriend of a club member. Since no one in their right mind would rent rooms to a patch-wearing outlaw biker for the May 24 weekend, the Victoria Day holiday, which occurs as near as possible to May 24th, nicknamed May 24, like the 24 case of beer. Okay. Must be a Canadian thing. I'm not being racist against Canadians. This book is set in Canada and written by Canadians. I'm just saying it how it is. Sometimes, you can overthink things till your brains fall out and your heart bleeds and you wallow in your own shit. So it's enough already. We'll carry on with the story. On the ride into Wasaga Beach, 2 red devils somehow offended Gwendon. When they pulled over to the side of the road, he levelled one of them with a short, hard shot. Then he turned to his buddy and laid him out too. With Bernie, there was no waiting, Willerton recalls. I'm hoping he meant he just like knocked them out, like King hit them, or did he mean he actually shot both of them? It's not clear here. Anyway. At the back of the pack was a jumbo-sized choice member with a squeaky voice named Crash, who was a legend of sorts in the outlaw biker world. He was surrounded by bike riding experts who could maintain a tight formation at 100 kilometres an hour with no stress, like an asphalt version of the Royal Canadian Air Force Precision Flying Team, the Snowbirds. Crash, by contrast, Crash, by contrast, was a remarkably bad rider, even by regular standards, and remained uniquely unable to master the most essential part of motorcycle riding, coming to a full stop without smashing hard into something or somebody. Gindin wasn't a patient instructor. He was a knowledgeable and enthusiastic one. He genuinely liked Crash, whom he met at GM. He tried to tell Crash that it was important to use the brakes and to gear down if he wanted to pull over safely. He might as well have been explaining advanced physics to a goat. More than once, when riding at the back of the pack, Crash simply zoned out and lost control. Jesus. Crash came from the back of the pack and ran into the side of this guy. Willerton says, the guy flew off his bike. Crash flew off his bike. That was Crash. I can tell more articulate, witty stories about my love life that I'm getting out of this bikey book here. Am I missing something? Is it because I'm sick? Is there something I'm not picking up? Or is it Canadian dry humour? Oh, there I go. Sounding racist again, but I was riffing on the drink, Canadian dry. Laura, don't kill me. My friend Laura's from Canada. She's probably I'm not having a go at Canadians, Laura. Love you, Laura. She knows. She knows I'm not like that. Anyway, it's just one of those days where everything comes out of my mouth is double jeopardy, and I gotta swap shoes, swap feet, and maybe should take myself for a walk, but it's cold and wet out there now, so I'm still sick, so no. On a tour of Manhattan with other choice members, Crash once managed to lurch with his growling chopper onto a crowded sidewalk, sending horror-struck New Yorkers scrambling for their lives. Sounds like a right pillock. Yet another time, Crash barreled through a tent set up by the Paradise Riders at a field day and came to a stop with a hard collision that put their bikes out of operation. Years later, at a Christmas get-together at Campbell's home in December 2011, Gwyndon, Willerton and Campbell were reminiscing about the old days when the topic turned to Crash. It's a wonder he didn't get a shit kicking, Gwyndon said. Everybody knew he was your friend, Campbell replied. Gwyndon made Crash ride far to the back of the pack, but that just delayed the inevitable as he kept running hard into the backs of other members' bikes. "Crash, what are you doing? Hit the brakes," Gindin would shout at him. "I don't know what happened, Bernie," Crash would reply, his voice as high as a schoolgirl's. Crash's personal life was as jarring as his motorcycle riding. Crash started going out with a splasher, and he was going to marry her. What? Oh well. Campbell recalls. So I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny. It's not. During that same time, she had been with a whole bunch of guys, splashed all of the time. I see, says the blue eyes. Crash went to Gindin with a personal question that had been gnawing at him. "Remember when the guys were with her?" Crash asked. "There was only 3 or 4 guys, wasn't there?" "Yeah," Gindin lied, not wanting to hurt his friend's feelings. Jesus. In 1967, Campbell broke his foot and split his ear when running an intersection while doing a wheel stand. That was also the year the club got news that Neil had died out west in what had started as a prank on a construction site. I hate pranks, and I hate dishonest people who can't speak to you face to face and tell you the lie of the land and how things really are. I hate slippery sliding sidewinders, snakes, crocodiles and piranha alleys. What do I love? Everything beyond that. Truth, honour and integrity and courage and fortitude and basic decency. Right. Workers were throwing water back and forth at each other when someone threw a bucket of a flammable liquid on Neil. It ignited. Well, how did it ignite just by itself, though? He must have been smoking or something. And club members heard how Neil had kept walking while on fire and how his body was cooled with ice in hospital until the pain ended only when he stopped breathing. What a dreadful, dreadful, dreadful fate. 15 clubs from Montreal to Windsor showed up for the funeral with about 200 members putting on a show of respect. In outlaw biker fashion, the bikers didn't wear helmets at the funeral procession in Durham region and shoveled the dirt onto the grave themselves. Club colours were as sacred as anything in their world. So Campbell was upset when 2 Red Devils from Hamilton showed up for a party in Scarborough with jackets over their patches. The Red Devils liked to bill themselves as Canada's oldest outlaw biker club, but this evening it was as though They were ashamed of their identities. These guys are hiding their patches. So they ended up getting a beating. In all fairness to them, they got beaten, but they fought. They didn't fight well enough, and so after Campbell punched them out, he rolled them over and yanked off their club crests. The captured patches were hung on the wall of the Choice clubhouse alongside patches from the warlords, outcasts, Satan's martyrs. They were cocky, but only for a few minutes. Hell's creation, 13th sin, wheels of destruction, wild rebels, lonesome rogues, Trojans, Vikings, prophets of hell, and plenty of other clubs. My friend Lynn just sent me a message. It's snowing in Guyra and northern New South Wales. Well, it's cold, Lynn. Told you it was going to be cold today, but we did have a lovely sunny day for most of today. It's now raining, but we've had it was what's the word? Forecast to be worse than it was today. So I personally feel quite humbled and grateful and blessed. I went to bed last night and I actually said, "Dear God, I feel like hell. It's been a cold, shitful day. I've been so ill today. I'm dreading the cold tomorrow and the constant rain. And I just wish we could have some nice days again." And from my lips to God's ears, I was gifted a lovely sunny day. So I'm sure it's just a coincidence, got nothing to do with my prayer, you understand, but I'm still grateful and happy that it worked out for me that way, because I was just dreading another miserable bloody day, stuck in bed, feeling like death. I really was dreading it. And the birdie boys got to be outside and be happy, and we've had a good day, haven't we, boys? Get out of our bedroom, Mama T, we want to sleep. The sun's just setting, boys. I reckon we could just about finish this chapter. Not. I will have to get out of their room soonish. Right. It was survival of the fittest and a culling of the herd, a two-wheeled version of Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection. For his part, Campbell doesn't get bogged down in theoretical terms when explaining why they pulled the other club's patches. We were the biggest guys on the block. We didn't win any other clubs in the area. We wanted to be the only boys on the block. It was just, we're Satan's choice and don't fuck with us. Seems reasonable. You should see the pretty sunset we've got going on. Well, I can show you. What am I talking about? Wait a minute. Just hope we don't get blipped off. Can you see it? Through the trees? It's all very pretty. I wonder if we'll get any UFO activity or UAP activity again tonight. I'm feeling all spidery, tingly tonight. Like something, paranormal is about to happen. You know how the Mama T gets. And sometimes I get spirits jump in and talk to me, and sometimes it's just other manifestations. But I'm feeling it. I did make my little offering to the Fae. I gave them milk and honey and a big giant marshmallow. I've never given them a marshmallow before. I wonder if they'll be, you know, happy with that. I hope so. I hope they're happy with that. I just thought something different. I usually just give them honey, or sometimes I give them broken pearls and bits of coral and things from the sea, because they're forest fae, and they don't get things from the ocean very often. So sometimes I give them shells, but usually it's just, honey and milk. I thought, let's do something, have a bit of a twist and give them a big fat marshmallow. So anyway, it was such a beautiful day, and I had a little communion with them, prayers with them, telepathy. I can't explain it. How do you explain that? Conversation with them, and tonight I feel, oh. So yes, I guess that's the fae letting me know that they're happy with their little gift. It's only a little thing. It's only an offering, but they like it. They like it. I should do it more often, to be honest. And sometimes months can go by, and then I think, oh, I better pay homage to the fairies, since I live on their sacred space land, and it's important. It's very important. Right, and who doesn't like little treats along the way? I like it when people give me gifts, but I've been given, the most wonderful life-saving gifts over the years. In recent years, 5 years ago, the air conditioner, which has indeed been a lifesaver for me, and a washing machine years ago. I've had very generous gifts gifted me from my, wealthier friends who were in a position to assist me. So I'm very grateful. And, but wax on, wax off. I give my little things where I can, and I give my little offerings to the fae, or if I'm doing shamanic offerings, to the ancestors that love us. And it all, yin and yang, keeps everything in perfect flow, and grooving on, wax on, wax off, wax on. No, maybe that's not the right term. Just Mobiusly twirling around each other's energy. The unseen worlds and the 3D reality, mortal human world. Although I'm not sure how many of us are actually completely human anymore, which is a terrifying prospect, but I mustn't think about that. Right. There were hippies who considered outlaw bikers to be the noble savages of the 1960s counterculture. Choice members oh, excuse me. Choice members, talking about Mobius loops, did a little head flip there. Choice members may have liked psychedelic music and free love, or at least sex, but they weren't so big on the flower power philosophy of the largely middle-class hippies. I didn't like hippies, Campbell says. I love hippies. I love lots of subcultures, bikies, hippies. anarchists and revolutionaries, although haven't met really any in our munted down, dumbed down, docile, compliant, post-Covidian culture. It's terrifying. Terrifying. Right, anyway, but yes, I belong to no club that will have me as a member, but I drift in and out of subcultures according to, where I find myself at whatever venue I'm at or wherever I'm hanging out in that moment in time. So it is what it is. I didn't like hippies, Campbell says. They were professing peace and love and everything, and I didn't advocate that at all. No, the dark side of the force. I advocate for peace and love unless you cross my line. And I'm a very, very patient and understanding and tolerant and loving woman. But when you cross that line, all the peace and love suddenly flies right out the fucking window. Wow. I came from, quite a violent background. It's amazing I'm alive, never mind. It's functioning as well as I do, considering. So there is that. Anyway, Campbell's crowd was quasi-militaristic and attracted to the power of packs, drawing a strict line between themselves and civilians who weren't in clubs. They looked like a leathered army of sorts travelling in a line of roaring Harleys trailed by a green hearse filled with beer. Creative. Back in those days it was all about freaking people out, Willerton says. I would have just laughed. Part of freaking people out was wearing Nazi memorabilia, which was relatively common and cheap in the 1960s. This I don't approve of, ever, but that's because of my background. Never, ever, ever align with those assholes. Right. There was a widely circulated story that the Canadian Nazi Party thought they had fascist political allies in the Satan's Choice and that they offered them land for muscle. Gwendon says he wasn't aware if it was true, but that he would have told the Nazis to fuck off if he had ever been approached. For his part, Willerton bought a German soldier's helmet at a flea market, then had it chromed lest anyone not notice it. He relished the attention until an elderly veteran shouted at him, "Look at that trash." Willerton couldn't help but sympathise with the old soldier. Campbell would later cringe while recalling the lengths to which outlaw bikers went to inflict shocks on civilians. Guys have eaten their own shit, drank their own vomit. That was part of what people did to freak people out. Well, it's just dirty, isn't it? And unsanitary. And wouldn't freak me out. I'd just be staring at you thinking, oh, well, there you go. You're a bit fucking uncouth, aren't you, darling? I would have just probably burst out laughing. What can I say? I can't stand filthy people in all echelons of society, from top to bottom. Can't abide filthy people. People who don't wash their genitals, for example, or people who expose their genitals out in the public for all the world to see. Yuck. That was part of what people did to freak people out. The most shocking of the 1%ers, without peer, was Howard from Peterborough, the original pigpen in Canadian outlaw biker circles. He patrolled the outer frontiers of crazy all by himself. There would be a host of other bikers called Pigpen over the years, just as there would be a waddling parade of 300-plus pound guys called Tiny. Each of these pigpens was revolting in his own right, but no one embodied the essence of the name better than Howard. Howard. Once, while visiting the Hamilton Clubhouse, Pigpen went out to a corner store. My eyes twitching at the thought. Went out to a corner store to buy some cigarettes. Yeah, this is a twitch one, this one. He put his hand down his pants. He had shit himself. When the girl turned around to hand him cigarettes, he handed shit to her. She ran out down the street. I tell you what, I wouldn't have done that. I would have thrown the shit right back in his face, and then I would have chased him with a baseball bat right out of my shop. Filthy animal. Anyway, I did actually used to keep a baseball bat under my counter in my shop many moons ago. 3 decades ago, by the gods. Not that I used it on anyone, but it was there for protection in case we were attacked by burglars or maniacs or, oh God, it could get feral down there at Capalaba back in the day. Probably still does if truth be known. Oh, anyway. Shocking people was like oxygen for Pigpen. That's not about shocking someone though. That's just about degrading someone. It's just animalistic behaviour. He was probably munted off his head on fucking methamphetamine or something. Just an animal. Anyway. He was eating Tampax. Not Tampax just out of the box. Oh, don't. Are you serious? Even eating dog shit. He wouldn't try stuff like that with me. I told him, if you ever try that with me, I'll kill you. And you know what? I would too. I swear to God. Those kind of people that are that filthy should not be sharing our oxygen with us. I know it's a dreadful thing to say, but some people, if you're that filthy, they just, why do you even exist in the world? Like, fuck off. Anyway, I've probably offended everyone that watches this videos that likes eating dog shit, Tampax, and their own shit, but, well, I'm not going to apologise for that. I'd kill you. I'd kill you with a look. You'd know. You'd cross my line. Be no running around screaming out, help me from the dog shit eater. Bing, bam, boom, baby. It's a lovely fantasy world we live in. It's sacred space, isn't it? Even the fairies wring their hands sometimes. What are we going to do with you, Mama T? Don't know. Anyway. Back when he was a striker for the Peterborough chapter, Pigpen had seemed relatively normal. He was a good-looking, well-groomed, tattoo-less man with a solid education and an obviously high IQ. What happened? I'll tell you what happened. Fentanyl happened, or the equivalent back in the day. Somehow the rush of being an outlaw biker surrounded by other rebels was too much for him. Within 6 weeks, he was a nutcase. It never impressed me, people like that. They called it pulling class. It was freaking the public out. Now, clubs own their clubhouses, and they are always tidy. I can vouch for that. They're cleaner than most houses. I can vouch for that. Back then, the clubhouses were always rented. Yes. The guys would get scabies in them. That just contradicted how he said how clean they were. The one I, hung out with for a while was very clean. Very, very clean. Not that the men did any of the cleaning, by the way. He'd flip out at meetings. They'd, Peterborough members, jump him, knock him out cold. He'd either wake up and sit down, or they'd have to do it again. Pigpen's craziness was directed towards himself as well as others. He pulled out his teeth with pliers, lest dentists insert listening devices into his mouth. He's right off his chops. And one of his literally, he's right off his chops and right off his chopper. In one of his increasingly rare moments of relative normalcy, Pigpen appealed to a jailhouse doctor. "You have to help me," Pigpen confided. "I'm starting to eat my own shit." Oh, I just want to vomit thinking about it. How can you even do that? It's foul. Campbell heard from Pigpen that the plea for the psychiatric aid didn't go well. The doctor just ended the interview. He said, "I'm not ready for you yet." In other words, he was put in the classic too hard basket. No one can be bothered with animals, not even psychiatrists. Once, while awaiting a court appearance in a holding cell, Pigpen decided that he just wanted to be left alone. Normally, guards would force reluctant prisoners to go to court, but Pigpen had a plan. He stripped off his clothing and smeared his body with feces from head to toe. Not surprisingly, do you love how I got the urge to itch my neck just then? Ugh. Not surprisingly, the ploy worked, and the guards kept him at a distance and out of the courtroom. When he told me about that, he was proud, Campbell recalls. He said, "Who won?" "You did, Howard," Campbell replied. not wanting to excite Pigpen further. Jesus. Greatness of any sort seldom goes unchallenged. At one get-together, Windsor Satan's Choice members rolled out their own Pigpen, billed as, you got to laugh, the class man from Windsor, whom they considered the most disgusting person on wheels. He had eaten a mouse. Howard, Pigpen, would not be outdone. He said to the guys, "Go out and find a mouse." The bikers managed to catch a live field mouse, which the classman grabbed. He bites the head right off the mouse. The mouse was squirming. He put the body on the table. He's not spinning out the head. Howard won't be outdone. They both keep breaking it apart, taking the intestines, eating them like it was caviar or sirloin steak. I went outside thinking I was solid. I couldn't get out fast enough, just turning to the left and letting her go. How revolting. Just revolting. Sometime in the early 1970s, Pigpen fled to the Carolinas, staying ahead of Canadian charges. While there, he joined up with the Outlaws Motorcycle Club, changing his biker name from Pigpen to the alias Garbage. Don't know what this is about. There's a big jow happening here. Dehydration. Getting really... Well, never mind. I'm 60 years old. What do you expect? It's getting like... The Outlaws and the Satan's Choice were on friendly terms and had a brotherhood pact, which made it fairly easy to make the switch from club to club. It's actually really sore there. I haven't used my CPAP mask for a few nights and it feels kind of sore. So it shouldn't, because haven't had the pressure on my face. Anyway, poor old Mama T. What's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen to the Mama T people of Earth? Is she going to find her niche? Is she going to find her true love at this late stage of life, which is ridiculous? Are her daughters ever going to speak to her again and be in contact and visit her? Is she ever going to make it in this world? Is her health going to improve? That's a possibility, vaguely. Anyway, things to think about. The Outlaws... Did I just read that? Yes. Yeah, I'll read it again. The Outlaws and the Satan's Choice were on friendly terms and had a brotherhood pact, which made it fairly easy to make the switch from club to club. Whatever happened to him, Campbell said when asked. He's running a restaurant with his lovely wife. Campbell chortled at the absurdity of the notion. Jesus. An animal that eats mice, his own shit, other people's used tampons. What was the other thing he ate? Other people's shit, found a wife and Mama T can't find a nice partner. Reason 5032 to hang myself, but we won't be doing that, people of Earth. Only because the gods just send me back in it regardless. So, waste of time. Waste of time. It was common for bikers to ride into a town in a pack and leave shortly afterwards with an eager police escort. They just wanted to get you out of their jurisdiction, Willerton says. They didn't want to touch us with a 10-foot pole. Not all the police were so accommodating. There was an Oshawa officer named Forchett, whom Gindon insisted on calling for shit. It's funny. It didn't help that Forchett was an aspiring boxer and that Gindon had seriously tuned him up in the ring. They fought on the lawn outside Gindon's home one day, and Gindon paid for the tussle by spending the next few months in jail. So stupid. When he returned to General Motors, Gindon was told he was out of a job unless he mended his ways. If I would quit riding my bike to work, then they would give me my job, Gindon recalls. He told them to stick it and climbed back on his motorcycle. With that, his 5-year career as an auto worker was over in 1968. Years later, Gindon said he could understand why they wanted him out of the plant. I wore my colours to work, and I started a lot of other guys wearing colours to work. At the age of 18, Campbell found work on a tobacco farm northeast of Oshawa. The job occasionally involved riding a horse, something he hadn't tried since he was 5 years old. Now, on the cusp of adulthood, he was told to ride a Morgan draft horse. The horse wouldn't obey me, so we headed back to the barn where I fell off. He fell in slow motion. I know that feeling. As if in a cartoon. He quit the job that day and thereafter confined his riding to motorcycles. My dreams of being a cowboy were over. A draft horse is a fairly, steep height to fall from in slow motion. Next, Campbell drove trucks for Canada Dry, Pepsi and North American Steel and worked on the loading dock for the steel company. When he wanted a break, he deliberately sliced his hand, took 4 or 5 stitches and enjoyed a week of recuperation. I want some time off, but I want more, said a co-worker Campbell didn't particularly like. Can you help? I can. How much time you want off? 6 months or so? Campbell prepared. Oh, Jesus, don't. Trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. Take a deep breath, especially the ladies watching this. Campbell prepared to swing a sheet of 18-gauge steel across the man's arm. Holy shit. It would be more than enough to leave a bloody stump and take him off the job forever. Oh, dear goddess. At the last second, the man saw the steel about to cut into him and yanked his arm away. He had no idea what my mind was about, Campbell says. Right. The Satan's Choice lost their leader in 1968. Excuse me. When Gindin and 5 other bikers were convicted of raping a 15-year-old girl in an Ottawa home. Foul. He was 24 at the time. There were so many sexual assaults committed by outlaw bikers back then that the Hells Angels felt the need to draft a rule specifically forbidding rape. There were also plenty of orgies when willing women and girls serviced whole groups of club members. As Gindin tells the story, the charge that sent him to prison was for an encounter of the second variety. His relatively light 5-year sentence suggests the court believed at least some of his account. She was at the clubhouse, she was a groupie, everything's okay, everybody had fun, but we all left and left a couple of guys who were hang-arounds. These guys had taken this girl to one of the guys' houses and the guy's wife was gone, and she came home and caught the guys doing whatever they were doing. That girl told the wife that she got raped. It didn't help his case that she showed up for court in little girl pigtails, Gindin says. Gindin found himself at Kingston Penitentiary, where one of the few other outlaw bikers was Lockie MacDonald. He was a member of the 13th Tribe Motorcycle Club from Halifax, convicted of a similar charge. As they were both in prison on skin beefs, which is their term for sex-related crimes, they were fair game for other convicts to attack under the unwritten but undeniable code of conduct that governs prison life. They would sick the older winos on them, Gindin says. Say, here's a knife, use it or else. One day, MacDonald staggered into his cell with a knife wound. He dragged with him the old convict who had stuck him. Gindin said it wasn't hard to get the old-timer to talk, and he told them, I stabbed him and so told me I had to. The prisoners behind the stabbing were 2 Italian criminals from Hamilton. Gindin didn't know whether or not they were mob, and that didn't particularly matter. I went in the common room and punched them out. I hit them with a nice left hook. One of the punches was particularly crisp. I put his nose on the other side of his face. Gindin says it made sense to carry out a very public preemptive strike on the Hamiltonians. I was on a skin beef. I said, why don't you all come after me? Nobody bothered me. Things got decidedly better after that, Gindin says. They didn't bother me. I don't hold grudges. The only time I hold grudges is when somebody comes back for a second time. I hear you, honey. When Gindin confronted the Hamiltonians, he showed the outlaw bikers. Have I drunk all my tea? Yes. He showed the outlaw bikers weren't to be fucked with either behind bars or on the streets, Campbell says. That made things safer, not just for Gindin and Lockie, but also for generations of club members who would do hard time in the future. That particular incident paved the way for other bikers. However, PDF files, which in the bikie subculture are referred to as rock spiders, don't expect to do well in prison. They will get you. Sooner or later, they'll get you. And well deserved, by the way. Right. Gindin trained hard in boxing while behind bars and managed to qualify for the 1971 Pan American Games in Cali, Colombia. He won a bronze medal at 157 pounds, despite fighting one weight division above his usual. When he was freed on parole on January 1972, he moved several hours northwest to Thunder Bay, and it wasn't long before he was on bad terms with local police. He told them, "If you keep harassing me, I'll start a chapter here." The war of words continued, and Gindin made good on his threat. But establishing a Thunder Bay chapter of the Choice made it easy for his parole to be yanked for criminal associations, and he found himself back in prison by November 1972. He was now known inside the club as Number One Frog, or simply Frog, from the French Connection book and movie. This time, Gindin ended up in Stony Mountain Penitentiary in Manitoba, a 19th century stone and brick dungeon on a tiny hill outside Winnipeg. The day I got there, a guy from Ontario got killed. Gindin kept training despite not having real boxing facilities. For a punching bag, he had an obliging First Nations behemoth who let Gindin whale away on his midsection. To toughen his own core area, Gindin got a craving for licorice all of a sudden. Gindin did a series of ab exercises he'd picked up while watching the Cubans train at the Pan Am Games. Let me just see how many pages are left of this chapter. We're nearly there. All right, I'll continue till the end then. Just don't want to keep my birdie boys up too long. Since I'm psychotic. During the time Gindin was away in prison, Campbell quit the club. There had been an ugly brawl between two Choice members over a woman, and the intensity of the anger was too much for Campbell. Somewhere, the promise of brotherhood seemed lost. I didn't want to belong to a bunch of guys who were fighting like that. Campbell had his grade 12 and completed a drafting course at Oshawa's Durham College in 1972. When he started a 2-year mechanical technician course, then he started a 2-year mechanical technician course, but never completed it. Despite quitting the club, he never stopped hanging around with his friends from the Choice. He also didn't stop riding bikes. In 1973, he bought a 1969 BSA Thunderbolt motorcycle for $800. The next year, he bought his first Harley Davidson for $900, a 1948 panhead chopper like the Captain America cycle Peter Fonda rode in Easy Rider. It was a rigid, heavyweight ride with no shocks or swing arm, which left its rider feeling every bump on the road. It also screamed badass from blocks away. The use of drugs was up in the early 1970s, but it didn't seem that anyone in their circle was making money selling them. Sellers would become users, and people using drugs just got stoned and violent a lot. The times were changing. As Willerton entered his 20s, he found that membership in the club was taking money out of his pocket and focus away from his plans to someday become wealthy. You pay quite a lot of money for memberships. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a few grand a year, something like that anyway. Well, that's what I was informed. Whether it's accurate, I don't know. Might have just been told that to impress me. It might have been an exaggeration, might have been an outright lie, but they just said it was very, very... They got pissed off, actually, because I walked in off the streets, invited myself, and I wasn't a paid member because I'm just some random, groupie. Didn't sleep with anyone groupie style, but, it was just kind of amuse. And they said, you walk in off the streets knowing no one. We all pay a small fortune for membership, a year to belong to this clubhouse. And you walk in and straight away you get handed a free drink and treated like a queen. I said, oh, that's because, the press liked my balls. There's no other reason. Liked me. Later on, he researched, they do intel on you. They check you, like policing do. They check you out. They check your background. And he asked me, he says, oh, your father was in a concentration camp. I said, not my father. It's no fucking father to me. Oh, that's not what I was informed. I said, well, you're half right. Well, what do you mean? I said, it was my de facto stepfather. So my mother lived with him for 23 years. They never married, but, he was in my life for 23 fucking years. But I refused to claim him as father. So because he was a sexual predating fucking asshole. Oh, he said. Well, anyway, was he in a concentration camp? I said, yep. Mittelbau-Dora, Nordhausen, building the V1 and V2 rockets at Blitz, London. Oh, yeah, that's what I was told. I was shocked. I was like, what? It's not that hard to find that out because I write all about it. It's all over Facebook, It's not that difficult, but I was still a bit impressed that he checked me out, He said, oh, the reason why I'm asking, he said, we have a lot in common. I said, oh, do we, He said, my father's Dutch Indonesian. Oh, is he? I said, I had no idea, no idea of anyone's backgrounds or never delved deep into talking to them too much about their personal lives because, didn't think it was appropriate since I was a guest in their clubhouse and a non-affiliated member to dig deep into things. And if people wanted to tell me things, I'd have to say, is this confidential or am I okay to talk about it? You have to be careful because you don't know what you're dealing with. Anyway, he confided in me that his father had also, while growing up in Holland, as a 12-year-old boy, had also been put into a concentration camp. But he didn't say which one, but, it doesn't matter which one. All concentration camps were hellscapes without end and most people didn't survive them. So we just looked at each other. I went, we do indeed have a lot in common then. I said, was your father a good father to you? Like, were you safe with him growing up? That's all I wanted to know. I want to cry. And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, yes, he said, my father was a very hard man, but a good man. And I nodded. It's all I need to know about that, I said. It's all I need to know about that. He said, what do you think about his son growing up to be a president of an outlaw motorcycle clubhouse? He said, do you think my dad would be proud of me? I said, you're hierarchy, aren't you? Why wouldn't he be proud of you? And he laughed. He laughed. He goes, I tell you one thing, Tanya Aarons, he says, you've got style. He really liked me, that man. And when his dad died, I was a bit fucking upset because we weren't lovers. There was nothing romantic between us. He just liked me, tucked me under his wing a bit. Was very protective, by the gods. And he genuinely liked me, that man. But the VP and his missus rang me up and they said, the president's father's died and we're letting you know we don't advise that you come to the funeral. I said, oh, but I'm the president's friend. Like, why can't I come to the funeral? It's a mark of respect. It's what you do. Yeah, but nah, don't come. And then I thought about it later. I thought, how could I have gone to the funeral even if I genuinely wanted to make the effort, which I kind of did, actually. It's a mark of respect. A man I'd never met, but he was my friend's father. Yes, I consider that man a friend to this day, by the way. So even though we haven't had contact since I left the clubhouse. So, awkward but weird and complicated. So anyway, the VP's missus says, no, don't you dare come. And later on I thought, well, I couldn't have gone even if I wanted to. If I really was hard pressed and wanted to push myself onto that circle of people and show up and act like I'm part of it all, which would have been entitled and obnoxious. I don't believe in pushing myself where I'm not, invited, welcomed straight away. Like, yes, I did invite myself off the streets initially, but, there's going to someone's weddings or funerals it's a bit private and personal, Anyway, so what happened was I thought, well, I couldn't have gone anyway because I didn't have his address. Didn't know where to rock up to go to the funeral. How was I going to go? Anyway, so I didn't go, obviously, to the funeral because I was basically told, don't go. You're not welcome there. It's like, why aren't I welcome there? Haven't done anything wrong. We're not lovers. We're just friends. And then I thought, perhaps they worried that the partner might get the wrong idea and get hostile and put me in danger. And I thought, well, that can't be the case because she dances with me whenever she turns up to the clubhouse. We dance together. She seemed to genuinely like me and she wasn't threatened by me in any way. It's like she knew that there was nothing, there was nothing romantic going on. She was very kind to me, his wife, his partner. I couldn't fucking figure it out why I was disinvited to the funeral, right? But I thought, well, when you don't understand what's going on and you can't ask because you're not going to get the truth anyway because there's some weird fucking game being played and it might be well-intentioned, it might be for my highest good, so just go with the flow. So don't question it, just don't push it, don't go. And as I said, I could not have gone if I wanted to because I didn't know where the man lived with his partner. And anyway, but I marked the day, the funeral in my mind and, blew a kiss to his old man and wished him peace in the next dimension as I do. And let it go, A couple of weeks later, I rocked up, for our usual hangout, Friday night hangout. And the president takes me aside and he's looking at me like, "Are you okay, Tanya?" I was like, yeah, I'm okay. "Were you sick a couple of weeks ago?" No, I wasn't sick. "I just don't understand," he said. "I thought we were friends." And then I clicked on. I realised. I went, "We are friends. I'm your friend. I hold you in very high regard. You've been nothing but kind to me. Of course we're friends, damn it." "Oh, I'm just a bit confused," he says. "Why didn't you come to the funeral?" I said, "Oh, I didn't come to the funeral because I wasn't invited." "Who told you that?" I said, "I don't want to get anyone in any trouble." He said, "You were told you weren't invited to my father's funeral." "Yes." "Okay," he said. "Okay." He says, "I understand why you didn't come now." And I said, I don't know where you live." I said, I couldn't have come even if I wanted to." "I understand," he said. To this day, I still don't know where he lives. We both kind of just nodded and let it go. Just let it fucking float, right? So, but it's how I realised he really genuinely considered me a friend, because he was genuinely disappointed that I didn't rock up to his dad's funeral as a mark of respect to the president of that, clubhouse, which is, what you do. And I thought it was odd that I was disinvited. Anyway, the next thing that happened after that, a few months after, was I was more than disinvited. I was arseholed out of there in the most ugly way. I won't go into details about that. It wasn't nice. Anyway, but again, I debriefed with my my psychiatrist and my former forensic psychiatrist, psychiatric nurse friend. And she said to me, "Your friend, the president, doesn't know that you've been told not to come to the clubhouse anymore." She said, "I bet you anything he doesn't know that you were threatened out of there." She said, "I bet you anything." I said, "Well, I can't. What can I do? It's politics or infighting, or someone there doesn't like me for whatever reason." And I said, "I haven't done anything to be ashamed of. I haven't done anything wrong." I said, "But they've just decided, that they don't want me there anymore." I said, "At least they had the decency to tell me to my face ultimately that they don't want me there." And I just let it go. So, I still don't know what that was about to this day. They probably read something in my writings, talking about my own trauma issues, as I do, have written for years about, and then they've probably twisted it or got some fact wrong, twisted it around in their mind to that, personalise it that I meant them, or they might, you don't know what their background is. They might be a rock spider, or they might be, they might hate short, fat, white, hobbit Jewish women. They might, honestly, all these years later, I have no idea what that was about, why it turned ugly. But this is what happens to me. I go to places and they turn ugly, and I spend years going, "Oh yes, they call him the streak." "Excuse me, ma'am, can you explain what happened?" Nah. You just have to let things go and have a bit of a laugh, ultimately. I know that there was one guy there that had it in for me, though. When I confronted him on it, about a year or so afterwards, up at the casino, and he ran away from me. He was utterly terrified. Didn't expect me to confront him on the bullshit. So, yeah, big tough guy he was. Men, big tough guy. So I reckon he was probably the oil and the fly in that ointment that had been getting into their ear and feeding them all this bullshit or I don't know what. There's really nothing I do that they can actually hold over my head. I don't do drugs. I mean, I used to occasionally. I would still occasionally if I could afford it and find a reliable source. Smoke a bit of, wacky tobacco. But aside from that, I've never done heavier drugs. I've got no interest in that. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't do crime. I'm not promiscuous. There was a brief window when I kind of was. After they arseholed me out of that clubhouse, I went a bit wild after that for about 18 months. Because I guess I was grieving being kicked out of something that I enjoyed, that I hadn't done anything wrong to get kicked out of. I'm really quite an innocuous, boring little old lady, but back then I wasn't old. Back then I was 47 when I left that space. It's not old. It's not young either, but I wasn't old. But you see, it only takes one person to develop a set against you and, they'll work at it and work at it and work at it till they've driven you out. And, I just don't think that's fair. Like, there's people I don't like completely, can't say exactly like them in the music scene when I go to, regular gigs, but I would never badmouth them to anyone or try and get them kicked out of the scene. Like, how fucking immature in high school is that anyway? It's like, just because I don't like someone, it's like, if other people like them and are happy with them, being vicious and sadistic and bad-mouthing constantly. I've caught one particular fellow doing that twice now. 3 strikes, you're out, dudes. But anyway, what I'm saying is I'm an adult woman. Mature adult woman, and I'm not out to get anyone. Got no malicious intent. I go dancing to have a nice time and then I go home. So, and part of that training actually came from the clubhouse, realising, Jesus, there's people that will kill you just because you showed up, had a nice corset on and looked a bit glamorous and got a little bit too much male attention. There's someone that will be out to get you for that. But anyway, it wasn't, I know for a fact it wasn't the president and his partner, because they were only ever kind to me. Anyway, and as I say, after all these many years, it doesn't matter now, and we're all old now, and we've never seen each other again, and life's gone on, and, whatever. I'm still finding myself not able to belong to clubs that will have me as members wherever I go, because I guess I'm a bit unique and unusual in that I stand in my own authority and my own integrity and my own power, and I'm polite and I'm civil to everyone, and sometimes I'm extra bit encouraging and kind if I can see people hurting around me. But other than that, I take no shit, but I don't put shit on others either. Why? Why would you go through life being like that? I was raised by maniacs like that. I find them ugly and detestable. The last thing I would ever want is to turn into those kind of people. So, it is what it is, people of Earth. But as I said in the earlier video, you know, there's just people out there that just have no couth, and they've never developed any sophistication beyond the age of 12, and, you know, they're petty and they're vicious and they're envious and they're jealous. Of what exactly? Nothing. Nothing. And they're not going to change because they might be, what, in their 50s or pushing 60, or I don't even know how old some of those nasty people are now, but they're not going to change. They're just going to get older and more bitter and more vicious and more ugly, and eventually they'll eat themselves alive. That's what my mother did to herself. Ask me how I know, because I witnessed it first fucking hand. The more vicious it got as it got older, the more its brain turned to mush. Eventually it got diagnosed as having an Alzheimer's, and then it literally did turn to mush and unravelled in its own shit and piss. So, people who are savage like that, I just look at them and think, you poor motherfucker. You've either got early onset Alzheimer's, or you've got some other congenital thing happening in your brain, and you're not actually long for this world. So I'm just going to nod politely, back my way to the wall, because I don't want anything to do with you. Not because you're sick, but because you're just so riddled with evil and ugliness. I don't choose to immerse myself in that energy, and you know, but I can recognise that it is a form of dementia, and those kind of types, unfortunately, they can live quite long lives and cause a train wreck of damage behind them. You know, my mother was 83 when she died, and the train wreck of damage she left behind her that I was still fighting over 2.5 years after her death, she flogged me that long, was immense. So I see people like that now, and they say these particularly vicious things. I just look at it and think, right, thank you, I think to myself. Thank you for showing me who you truly are and why I don't want you in my life on any real meaningful way. And I'm always grateful for that. Just thank you. Kiss my tuchus. I'm civil and pleasant when I'm out dancing in the club because, you know, some of them are regulars there too, and they've got every right to dance and have a good time like I do. It's perfectly acceptable and fine. But I will never consider those types friends. Ever. I'd be embarrassed to call them a friend of mine. Embarrassed to the core. If someone said, is that your friend? What? Someone that badmouths every woman in the club, including his other male friends as well. Jesus. But, you know, as I said, probably not all that well. Not all that well, darlings. So we can just nod politely and hold space from a distance. Civil and polite and congenial, but not friends. Anyway, you can tell I've been thinking about that to some extent. But I call people like that, you know, from the Lord of the Rings, worm tongues. You know, when they come to you and they're vicious about others, I think, well, what do you say about me when my back's turned? Worm tongues. Just foulness. Anyway. lost my spot. Just bear with me. Oh yes, he was hoping to become wealthy. His father made auto glass for the GM plant, and Willerton wanted something far better than the merciless boredom of life on an assembly line, which is completely comprehensible. When he had signed on with GM after dropping out of high school, he told his friends, he might stay 2 years before setting out for something, better. When he reached his mid-20s, though, he was still on the assembly line and restless. You can't leave GM. That money for no education. The habit becomes a ditch, and the ditch becomes a grave. We had that saying in GM. GM is short for General Motors. Willerton bought himself a 3-piece suit and a Cadillac and set out part-time to try to sell soap franchises in Montreal, hanging on to his GM job as insurance until his outside ventures took off. He decided it was time to stop wearing the choice patch on his back and focus on making real money in the mainstream world. I figured to get rich I had to get out of the club and get a suit. I wanted to get rich, and I knew I had to be playing the game and leave the club. It wasn't just Willerton who was changing. There were also seismic shifts underway in the outlaw biker world, and Willerton wasn't comfortable with what he was seeing. When he had joined the Phantom Riders as a teenager, he had convinced himself that the biker world offered a balance to his life as an assembly line drone. In its best light, it represented an oasis of honesty in a hypocritical world and a chance for juvenile fun and near rock star glamour. That life officially ended for Willerton one day when he was expected to fly down to Montreal and pick up a gun to help settle an interclub beef. To that point, the choice had largely been about mindless hijinks and punch-ups and splashes. But now the club was heading in a more dangerous direction from which there was no turning back. The guns were starting to come out. That was the turning point for me. Campbell's life was moving on an opposite track as he answered what felt like an irresistible pull to re-enter the ranks of the club. Not long after he rejoined, Campbell was appointed Sergeant-at-Arms, which is very high status, by the way. One of the third down from the top role of president. Yes, that's right. Sergeant-at-Arms of the Choice's Oshawa chapter, and his new official duties included punching out guys who got out of hand at parties and enforcing club discipline in general. He had no doubts he could handle the job. I know when a guy is out of hand and needs a shot in the head. So there answers my question. By shot in the head, he means a punch in the head. Unlike many of the outlaw bikers, he didn't take on a nickname to go with his club persona. I was known as the Hick from Oshawa. They never called me that to my face. I was from a small town, never did drugs. I was thought of as a hick. Then I started fighting, and people saw how loyal I was. It was around this time that Campbell happened to bump into a girl he had known in elementary school, who had somehow seemed even poorer than Campbell. She always wore ratty clothing and was a constant butt of jokes, ostracised to the point that other kids refused even to touch her while square dancing during physical education classes. Oh, that's cruel, isn't it? That's how I was treated at school too. Just fucking cruel. Fuck you all. Sorry, just every now and then I just gotta release a little bit of pressure valve there. I don't mean fuck everyone that has actually people been kind to me. I'm talking about my abusers here. Even the childhood abusers. Oh, it was foul. By the gods. But I fought it all. Every day in every way. Right to age 60, I'm still fighting by telling my stories. Can you tell? Since those awkward, unhappy days, she had blossomed nicely, finding a loving husband and building a good life with him. Oh, blessed be. You lucky, lucky girl. I never even had that. That day, when they met by chance, she approached Campbell and made a point of saying some kind words to him. She just remembered that I was nice to her back at school. It was a nice feeling. It was nice, very nice, for her to say that. Hasn't occurred to him that maybe she thought that he was kind to her as a child, so the compliment goes both ways. She wouldn't have done that otherwise. The iconic gangster movie, The Godfather, came out in 1972, ushering in a public fascination with organised crime. There was a fair amount of crime in Campbell's biker family, but still not much organisation. At choice meetings, talk was about club rooms, not drug deals. Club runs, not drug deals, he says. Any cop trying to predict the club's movements by using the organisational charts and economic analysis would have had just as much luck relying on a dart-throwing monkey. They'd call it organised crime. We'd say, fuck, if they only knew. Steve Earle, the American roots musician who spent many of his formative years in Texas biker circles, later wondered about the effect Marlon Brando's performance as mafia boss Don Corleone in The Godfather had on biker culture in general, and Hell's Angels leader Ralph Sonny Barger in particular. He saw Marlon Brando in The Wild One, and he wanted to be scooter trash. He saw the same actor in The Godfather and decided he wanted to be a gangster. Something about the Satan's choice still appealed to Campbell's romantic nature, but the reality of the club often disappointed him. To an outsider, it may seem odd to call someone romantic. I keep wanting to do the quotes. The quotes aren't there, people of Earth. It may seem odd to call someone romantic when he talks wistfully of the days he punched out bikers on a regular basis and rode in a snarly pack that scared the bejesus out of civilians. It's tougher yet when those days also included bumping shoulders with the likes of Pigpen from Peterborough. But romance isn't an exclusive thing, limited only to well-behaved lovers of Keats and baby's breath bouquets. At this point in his life, Campbell wasn't looking for employment in the underworld. He already had steady work. He sought something more precious and elusive. He wanted a family. He wanted fun. And he wanted to be a part of something big that mattered. When I was a kid and we would make a wish when we broke a turkey wishbone, I've always wished for happiness. I never wished for money. Blessed be. So that concludes chapter 3, Growing Pains. We got there in the end, people of Earth. There's lots of segues and Mama T drifting and floating in and out of my body, literally, because I'm actually not that well and a bit fucking tired. And what can I say, people of Earth? Happy days are here again, and hopefully in a few days I'll feel better. Do I feel better? I don't know. I'm functioning. And on that note, I bid you good evening. I'm going to go and relax and watch some Netflix or Prime or find some interesting show tonight. And I wish you all happiness and success in your own undertakings, supported by people that wish to support you and love you and have your back, front and sides. Bing, bam, boom, babies. And wishing you peace and joy, and with our current world, with the alien kind of visitations escalating globally, it's going to be an interesting few months ahead of us, I think. See what lands and what manifests in our world. I pray that whoever arrives comes in peace and benevolence. Because if they don't, we can all bend over and kiss our asses goodbye. Just saying. But I'm not really all that afraid, because they've had billions of years to destroy humans and this planet, and they haven't done that yet. So I'm curious to see why they're coming in so much increased numbers, and what they're wanting to do to share with us fellow earthlings. And I'm just curious. And I was thinking about it when I was out in the garden today. My life was so traumatic as a young child, and so beyond awful, living constantly under attack at school with the constant bullying. And I even had a teacher who was a couple of teachers in very early childhood. We're talking when I was 5 and 7, being completely savage because I couldn't wrap my head around numbers or mathematics. I've got some kind of dyslexia. I don't know what it's called. There's a word for it for numbers. Dystonia or something. Couldn't wrap numbers around my head even as a little girl. They were vicious, those adult teachers. Vicious about that. And I had so much bullying in every year of every grade of every school that I went to. The only school I wasn't so much bullied at was when I was 8, when we went to Germany and my mother put me in primary school in Germany in a class. I had to go into a classroom with children who were about 4 years older because that teacher was the only one that spoke English. And that was the only classroom where I wasn't bullied really savagely, but they did fight me a lot about whether New Zealand was a real place, and eventually even the teacher got sick of listening to them and pulled the gigantic atlas down, pointed to where New Zealand was and said, that's where Tanya comes from. And then they all had to shut up because they didn't believe that there was such a place as New Zealand. But they were just kids. And it wasn't overly nasty, it was just ignorance on their part. But anyway, so I had a lifetime of that horror plus my home life. So where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so I did lots of praying as a little girl. And I was raised a Lutheran, so I did lots of praying to the Jesus man. Please, Jesus, come, save me from Uncle Trevor and from my parents screaming and fighting, and just save me, save me, save me. In a weird kind of way, that prayer got answered because I got taken to Germany away from Uncle Trevor, and my parents separated, so the screaming stopped, but didn't really change all that much, quite frankly. And then Mum hooked up with Case, and so then it was just another cycle with another monster. Although he didn't actually predate on me physically, but it was all more harassment and terrorising and belittling and dehumanising and sexual harassment and throwing me into walls and shit like that. So, I barely survived childhood and adolescence. And as I said, there was a lot of praying to Jesus. And then when I got to about 6 years old, I decided when I was 6 that when I grew up I was going to be Jewish. And I fulfilled that mission. Converted when I was 19. And a bit later when we were living with Uncle Case in Melbourne, and the constant level of threat and not feeling safe and feeling sexually compromised all the time, although I wasn't actually, molesting me per se, but it was all lasciviousness and I don't want to go into details, but anyway, it was awful. It was awful. And also I was already still traumatised from the other predator. So I did a lot of praying. And what year did Calling Occupants from Interplanetary Craft come out? Probably in the late 60s or early 70s. Anyway, I would hear it on the radio constantly. So I must have been about 10 or 11. When I was 10, it was 1975. And I'd be, sitting in the house all on my own because Mum and Case would go out for the evening, leave me unattended from the age of 10. I was traumatised. I was fucking traumatised. And that apartment we lived in Elwood and Milton Street was haunted as fuck. So I was freshly traumatised from the paranormal activity that I was picking up on and the feeling of threat, and there was something really evil in that apartment too. And so I had all that going on, as well as living with a monster, 2 monsters actually, because my mother's a monster too, because she enabled it. And then my father would come on the Sunday to pick me up, and I'd say, and my father was a Christian spiritualist. So he would drag me on a Sunday for something to do because, access visit with your kid, and he didn't know what to do with me. No imagination. It's funny how fathers who are absent fathers, once they're separated from their wives, suddenly don't know what to do with their kids. But they knew well enough when their wives were there. It's odd, isn't it? Say no more about that. So anyway, my dad's dragging me to spiritualist church, and I'm trying to tell my Dad, that the apartment we live in is haunted, and I'm really scared. They leave me alone at night, and there's this energy that builds and builds. I said, it's coming out of the gas heater, sorry. And, don't be silly, Tanya, it's just in your mind. And he's a fucking Christian spiritualist. Like, he should have known better. He could have validated me. We were going to the mediums in the church. All he had to do was ask someone, is it possible that my little daughter's actually experienced something? Never backed me up, never supported me. I used to jump into bed utterly terrified, turning all the lights off through that whole apartment till the last night light was my bedroom, and I would flick it off and I would throw myself like a long jump, 4 feet, thrown from the doorway where I switched the light off to my bed. 11 years old, utterly terrified of whatever fucking spirit or demon was living in that apartment. And I'd pull the covers up, and I would pray and pray, please protect me, please protect me. And then when that wasn't working, I'd sing. It sounds funny now and everyone will laugh at me, but I was a child and I was desperate. It was getting to the point that I would have called on anything to just be safe and have peace in that apartment. Because I knew the adults in my life, the 3 adults in my life, my mother, my father and my stepfather, weren't going to fucking protect me ever. Never had my back. Never. Not once. Oh, they were scum and trash and filth. And I've got no problem saying that because I've been in therapy for 30 years. It's what it took, 30 years to be able to be honest about who my parents and parental units and the ring-ins that came with them, who they were. So anyway, I'd lie there and I'd be all shaking and sweating and often unwell with my chest, like I'm, improving slightly today, but I'd be violently unwell as well, coughing and sweating and feverish, and then haunted and traumatised from my own experiences of abuse in the home, in the family home. And then I would lie there and I'd think of that song from the radio. I mean, I'm going to do it, but it's going to sound funny because I can't sing, people, as you well know if you've been watching my channel. But I'll be lying there and I'll be like, calling occupants of interplanetary craft, calling occupants of interplanetary most extraordinary craft. We are your friends. By the gods, I could do with some extra sensory perceptive friends that really do have my back, since humans keep fucking letting me down, am I right? And I'd call them in. A child, 11, calling them in, completely fearlessly. I thought they can't be any worse than what human beings have been doing to me since I was a very little girl. They might even be kind, because I hadn't heard about the abductions and the semen and the egg samples being taken and, adult people being traumatised and being anal probed, and I hadn't heard about the cattle mutilations, and I hadn't heard about all of that, so quite innocently calling it all in. Is what was I looking for? Since the Jeebus man wasn't helping me, didn't ever help me, that one. And I find out later what that religion's predicated on. Ghastly, isn't it? So I thought, well, I'll put my faith in the extra or ultra or, interdimensionals. Can't be any worse unless you actually call in, the actual demons. Can't be any worse, people of Earth. So I don't know. I sat there in the garden today and I actually thought that little prayer and manifestation, I poured a lot of energy into, a lot of psychic energy, because it was emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, and the immense trauma states I was in. It was a powerful prayer. And we're talking 1976. 1976. And what year is it now? 2025. I single-handedly must have called them down. Not just me, you understand. We'd sent a rocket out into space to the moon. No. Where did Voyager 2 or whatever go? With a detailed map engraved on it of what a human man looks like and a human woman looks like. And we literally gave them our address in the solar system. We are here. Come and find us. We invited them to our planet, and now they're freaking out because they finally come and said, okay, well, we're here now. We'll come and check you out, see what you hairless apes are up to. You're still trying to blow yourselves up with nuclear armaments. We see you've invented some new gain of function product, and you've obliterated yourself there too. I think we better come and have a good long look at you people, because that's not the future we had planned for you when we interfered with your DNA splicing about 300 years ago. That wasn't our idea. I don't think it was either. I think it was just some demonic maniac scientist. So I reckon, my theory, don't get me wrong, it's just an idea. They're coming now. They've realised we are completely incapable of getting our shit together, protecting our own biological selves and our own planet. So they're coming. They're coming to take it all back. And sort us out, clean up on aisle 4, aisle 5 or whatever, aisle 7 or aisle 59, and then they'll probably, some will either stay here or they'll go back to wherever planet or galaxy they've come from. But I reckon that that's what's happening. But I did contribute to it because I was praying for a miracle. Just something pure and good and clean and clear. Keep me safe. Well, people of Earth, it took a long time to get that to finally manifest. But they're here. They're here. I'm quite convinced of it. They're here. We might not be able to see them, but they can see us, and they can tap into our airwaves and hear our communications. They know exactly what's going on with humanity, and probably with the mama tea as well. And I'm okay with that because, you know, I did all those things as a child with the purest intentions to protect my little self and be safe, and was never meant as an attack on any other humans or any other way of life. It was just get me the fuck away from these people and to a safer, better life. And what's the first thing I did like an idiot at 17? You know, married my first boyfriend and thinking I'd be safe too. Well, that didn't work out either. And anyway, things happen for a reason in a person's life. It's part of what they call the hero's journey, and everything happened as it was exactly meant to be. Even the horrific, ugly things that happened helped create me, wild and fucking furious at times, free-spirited and powerful. Helped build me, helped shape me. Like my former president friend saying, my father was a hard man, but a good man, and he's what shaped me. And it's a bit like that. It's a bit like that. I wished I'd had good men in my upbringing. Can you imagine what I might have achieved in life and how much money I might have been able to cobble together if I wasn't constantly robbed by family and their cohorts, and constantly chronically ill from trauma issues impacting my physical and mental health. I've tried very hard. If you look at my videos or look on my Instagram and you have an ounce of respect or compassion for me, the Tanya Desiree Aarons, I've tried very hard to achieve things in the last 5 years since COVID was vomited upon our world. I've tried hard, with the silversmithing, and I try every day. I write some silly little thing, even if it's depressive, because it's what's inside me. I'm still purging decades of pain, people of Earth. I wonder how long that's going to go on for, writing dark, sad, morose topics. I wrote something. I was going to say I'll read it to you, but I can't because we're filming on my phone. But I wrote something quite lovely today about the little birdies and how sweet they were. Was it today or yesterday? No, I'm not always writing dark, sad, trauma processing things. Sometimes I write quite lovely things. I promised myself about 2 years ago that I would eventually write a book, and then it would be like children's books of something uplifting and happy and inspiring and warm and encouraging and soul nourishing. But I'm not ready yet. I'm not there yet. I'm still working through all my trauma. I'm still held back by my early childhood traumas and the traumas from the 3 strangulations and the recent systemic traumas of the COVID epoch. And I'm still kind of trapped in that space. I feel very frustrated and so sad about that too, because I really hoped that at 60 I could turn my life around somehow, but I guess it could still happen. It's just going to be a process of fighting back from illness and grief and other people's viciousness towards me that again wasn't really merited. It's like all I did wrong was fall in love. And I fell out of love as soon as I found out what that person was really like, being nasty, and because I don't want that ever again. I had a marriage like that. Why would I want someone, even as a friend, like that? But that's my sole crime, was falling in love, falling out of love, and working it through. Haven't done anything nasty to anyone. All I've said is, it was ugly what I was put through. There was no need for that. And I stand by what I said, what I say. Fuck it. I guess if I'm still alive in 5 years' time, I'll give myself 5 years. By then, they say that the aliens will, there'll be complete disclosure by 2027. That's in 18 months from now. So 5 years' time, yeah, I'll be 65. If we're all still alive and we're all living in perfect harmony with whatever beings come to share our planet with, I'm just saying this is semantics. It might be just nonsense. It might not manifest. It might be just narratives we're being fed to distract us from what they're really up to. Think about that one. Anyway, I'll give myself another 5 years to achieve a few more things I want to achieve, like continue with my silversmithing journey and improve on those skills. And who knows, I might even write those happy and sweet and lovely books one day. Or, alternatively, I might write, I don't know, schlocky horror books, because my life's been horrific enough that I can draw on that. But I have a feeling, people of Earth, I know this sounds a bit bonkers, Everything sounds bonkers when you take it out of context. I have a feeling that my life's going to work out just fine. And the people that genuinely care about me and genuinely love me and want to be in my life as friends or as a lover or family or partner, they'll show up eventually. And the ones who are already in my life that genuinely care about me, they'll stay in my life because they kind of think I'm a bit cool, and they've learnt to cope with my eccentricities by now, and they've got their own too, so it's all good. And I guess I'll keep dancing for as long as I can when I'm healthier and not coughing up a lung. And life will just continuously unfold the way it's meant to unfold, and the people that are meant to be in my life will stay. And the people that are meant to leave my life have already left anyway. And it's all good. It's all good. It's chilling, isn't it, listening to these fucking sirens every night. Every fucking night. My blood runs cold hearing that. It's close by too, it's stopped. I don't even want to look and see where it is. Anyway, Goddess bless. Stay healthy, stay wild, stay free. Stay in love with your true beloved, friends, family or partner or spouses. Be good and kind to each other. And hold your head high and just remember that nearly everyone's been altered, and some of us aren't who we used to be anymore, and we're just going to have to cope with the extreme changes in personality and attitudes and nod politely back our ways to the wall, and with understanding that it's not necessarily meant maliciously. They've just entered some kind of twilight zone or some kind of mental state that looks an awful lot like dementia, only because I witnessed it with my mother, the savagery as she descended into that. But she'd always been kind of savage, just exacerbated it. And anyway, things to think about. We all have a choice in how much we wish to tolerate or participate in, and Mamati's a free spirit. She comes and goes as she pleases, and she doesn't have to engage with anyone she doesn't particularly like. I'll just, in public sphere, I just nod politely and drink my Jack Daniels and not give a fuck. Which, by the way, is enough to send my enemies completely beside themselves, because they expect, to have upset me on some level, and I've had a lifetime of it. It's just pointless. Anyway, I had a lovely time the last weekend. Was it last weekend? Feels like forever. What's today? What day is today? Saturday. So yeah, a week ago. I had a lovely weekend. Last weekend I was powerful and strong in my core and feeling great, and then I got slammed with the sickness. So, but there's a lot going around now, and apparently Ramjet are also all sick, had to cancel their gig for tonight. So my friend Lynn tells me there's a lot of flus going around, and a lot of her family members are out for the count too. So it is what it is. It's winter. It's been a very cold winter this year, colder than I remember us having for quite some years. So, we're not used to it being so cold, so I suppose we've sort of been left a bit not quite armoured up against it, because we take for granted how warm our winters usually are. So our immune systems have just taken a bit of an extra hit, I suppose. Anyway, that's enough rambling and musing and meandering. So, good evening from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm.